We announced yesterday, Jayapal had been able to secure a hearing from the House Oversight Committee on, I think it's specifically on universal health care. This was taken as an opportunity by the progressives in the House to promote single-payer health care. There is another thing that's going on that John Walker over at the American Prospect has written about. There were expansions of the Affordable Care Act subsidies, which allowed for about an extra 3.5 million people, more or less, to get health insurance who otherwise wouldn't be able to. Walker gave an example, I think, of a 60-year-old woman who is now paying started her own business, paying $93 a month for her health care. When these subsidies sunset, which nobody anticipated they would because people thought that they were going to do Build Back Better, which included these subsidies, her health insurance will jump to $1,500 a month. And of course, in the just to show you the political brilliance of Democrats, she will get a notice in October when it's time to go into the open enrollment that your cost is going to increase by $1,200 or a month.
What's the month after October?
That would be November, which is in fact this year when elections are.
They must have just got confused and thought that this was one of the years when elections weren't in November.
It just, for those people who think that Democrats do this on purpose, just walk through the whole thing in your head and figure out like why that may not be the case. Why this is just like an incredible amount of incompetence. Because why would they expand it in the first place if they're not going to take electoral advantage of it? Because they're idiots. The leadership is horrible. Anyways, here's someone who is not horrible. Representative Katie Porter. And talking to the Commonwealth Fund Vice President, Dr. Sarah Collins, about using some props to visualize the disparity between how much private insurance companies spend on marketing relative to Medicare.
Dr. Collins, what percentage of revenue do private insurance companies spend on administrative costs?
Between about 17 to 18% of spending in private insurance plans.
So if I pay my insurance company $100, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, $17 go to administrative costs. What about Medicare? What do they spend on administrative costs?
That range is about 3 to 5%.
3 to 5%. About 3 to 5%. Right here. And if we look at just billing costs, just billing and insurance costs, Medicare is at 1%. Wait, private companies spend 17 times more on administrative costs than Medicare? What are private insurance companies spending on that Medicare is not? Does Medicare spend hundreds of millions of dollars on television advertisements like private insurance does? Dr. Collins?
No.
Does Medicare spend millions of dollars on stock buybacks to shareholders?
No.
Does Medicare spend money on marketing? Private insurance likes to put its name on stadiums and PGA tournaments. Is there a Medicare arena?
No.
Does Medicare spend $23 million on executive pay like private insurance companies do?
No.
We know how much it costs to run a high-quality health insurance program. $1. Out of $100, research shows that Medicare spends 1.1% on administrative costs. We spend $4 trillion on healthcare every year. We could save $200 billion on administrative costs with Medicare for all. And those savings, they could go to expand Medicare. We could spend that money to let patients see dentists. We could spend that money to let patients pay for hearing aids, to help older adults afford eyeglasses, to bring down the cost of prescription drugs, to finally pay mental health professionals for the work they do. Instead, all this money is wasted. We're not talking about paying to keep the lights on in operating rooms or improving the quality of care. All this money is used to pay big insurance to push paper. It's death by 200 billion paper cuts.
There it is. I mean, that's, put aside the question of whether we want to make sure that every single person has health insurance. Put aside the question of whether we want to make health insurance something that is almost invisible, that doesn't require literally hours and hours of weekly, monthly work by people who are trying to get some type of reimbursement. I can tell you, how much of my month, everybody knows, but if you have kids too, and they're like going to the dentist and they're, we got to take one kid to therapy or whatever it is, broke an ankle. It is a second job. Even putting that aside, putting aside all the principles as to why you would want Medicare for all, it is far less expensive, not just for in terms of what the government expends even now.
Yeah.
Even now.
And more efficient.
And more efficient, is the
Well, when you
driver
cut
behind
out the price gouging middleman, yeah, that's what's going to happen.
And that doesn't even work
Plus
in
the
the idea.
executives, plus all the things that Katie Porter listed there.
Right. But that doesn't even then start to speak to the efficiencies you get from normalizing the cost of medicine across the board. So it's important to amplify these moments. We have a couple other clips and we'll play them later in the program. We got a couple of words from our sponsor, and then we're going to be talking to Paul Renfro, assistant professor of history at Florida State University, author of Stranger Danger, Family Values, Childhood, and the American Carceral State.